The summer of 2024 featured multiple hurricanes that attacked the southeastern United States. The first, Hurricane Debbie, reached wind speeds of up to 80 miles per hour and led to states of emergency being declared in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, and elsewhere. It also caused the death of at least 10 people and over $7 billion in damage. One family affected was that of Sergeant First Class John Bonez. His entire neighborhood in Richmond Hill, Georgia, almost disappeared underwater because of a levee failure, and his family home was wrecked.
Flood waters came into our house. It was about 8 to 12 inches of water that came inside the house. My wife and daughter's cars, which were parked outside, were totaled due to the flood, and the inside of our house had to be gutted due to the water damage. My family lost a lot of furniture, personal items, and items of sentimental value due to water damage and mold.
The overall material damage they suffered added up to more than $40,000, and absolutely none of it was covered by insurance. The family had no other option but to check into a hotel, a very costly move for them. Tensions ran high, and the entire family was stressed, afraid that their lives had been ruined. And that's when Army Emergency Relief came into the picture. The initial assistance offered was for $600, a standard amount for evacuation and stabilization in place. But that obviously wasn't enough in this case. So the staff at AER came to the rescue.
Thanks to individuals such as Colonel Ryan and Sergeant Major Wellen looking into our situation, AER was able to provide us with additional funding to help with repairs and hotel costs. Without their help, we would have had a great financial difficulty in completing the repairs to the house, and we probably wouldn't have been able to finish all the repairs until after the new year.
And those funds went into use immediately. House repairs are in full swing, and hopefully, the house will be livable in time for Thanksgiving. The holiday is normally a big event for the family, all under the same roof. And this year, it'll have an extra significance.
The funding really helps us get out of living in hotels and moving back into our house so we can go and try to rebuild our home and continue our lives.
Every member of the Army knows someone who has been helped through difficult times by Army Emergency Relief. Not only does it provide loans and grants to get through short-term difficulties, it also provides something more important: hope. Hope that tough times are temporary, and knowledge that the Army family will be there to help out. Army Emergency Relief has been providing resources like this to soldiers worldwide since 1942, and every year it distributes millions of dollars in assistance funds. AER receives contributions from across the country from soldiers and multiple organizations, including AUSA. It runs a very smooth operation already, but it knows that it can do even better. And that's why at the beginning of 2024, it welcomed a brand new CEO, Sergeant Major of the Army retired Michael Tony Grinston. He's already started to implement new plans that will help the organization aid soldiers in larger and different ways. In today's episode, our hosts sit down with SMA Grinston to talk about some of the things AER is currently focused on. They'll discuss Grinston's own Army journey, how composer Irving Berlin played a big role in the creation of the nonprofit, and also discover one of his hidden talents. I'm Carrie Varuhaikis, and this is Army Matters.
Wasayabeck Defense is a group of tribally owned small businesses providing innovative life cycle solutions to the Department of Defense. Our businesses stand ready to serve your mission needs, from research and development to engineering, production, operations, and maintenance. Learn more at wasayabeck.com/defense.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lieutenant General Retired Leslie Smith, and I want to welcome you to Army Matters. I'm here today with my best friend, my buddy,
the 15th Sergeant Major of the Army, of course. And I'm retired Sergeant of the Army, Dan Dailey. I'm a little under the weather today, Les.
Oh, why? What happened, man? Have you been working too hard?
I got a little head cold thing going on.
You got a little head cold?
Yeah.
Well, I'll come down and give you a hug, but I'll put a mask on first.
Okay.
So just to make sure I don't get the heebie-jeebies from
I'm getting
you.
a Christmas hug early?
No, I'll give you a hug. Remember, we were talking about that. Agape. It's the love of everyone type thing.
Say that again?
Agape. A-G-A-P-E. That means
is that an English word?
It is. I know. I think it's, it may be Greek or something else.
This is why we have officers to teach us enlisted soldiers. Teach us enlisted soldiers.
Anyway, you have a degree.
Their expanded vocabulary.
Anyway, you have a degree already. So multiple and a history guy. So
Les, let me ask you a question for once.
Yeah.
What was the best part of transitioning from active duty for you?
The best part was I think
for me it was you retiring.
Yeah. Was that the best part of you? Was that the best part?
Yeah.
Of you retiring?
No, of you.
Of you retiring.
Of you retiring.
The best. But so you retired before me, though.
Yeah, but just knowing that you were going to retire.
Oh, anyway, come up with a better line than that. That is, oh my gosh, you don't feel that bad.
I don't feel that bad.
So anyway, but can I answer the question since you asked it?
Of course.
Okay, thank you. I think the best part of transitioning from active duty, especially since we work for the Association of the United States Army, was I had the ability to still stay connected and stay focused on my purpose. But to that end, it did allow me to relax. And you don't realize how tired you are after that time frame of serving for 35 plus years.
Yeah.
The wear and tear, not only on your body, but on your families and what you had to do. How about you, Dan? What was your best part of transition?
It was hard. It was the only thing I did since literally I was a child.
Yeah.
So it kind of hit me like, whoa.
Like a brick wall? Yeah.
Like, whoa, I'm not going to be in the Army anymore.
You're not the man anymore.
Yeah, I'm not the man anymore.
You're not the man anymore. How did that feel? You know, when you got your retiree ID card and you fell off the email trail where you didn't get those daily updates like you used to?
And I had to stand in line and wait for my seat number to be called to get on an airplane.
Yeah.
Like that.
And then you felt down to the next tier. Like if you got to go to the hospital or something, you're like, it's like, oh, okay.
It's definitely a humbling experience.
Right. So what do you think is the hardest? Let's broaden it a little bit.
Yeah.
What do you think is the hardest transition for our service member, regardless of how long they serve? What do you think it is?
I think, here's what I get from a lot of people is it's the camaraderie and the fellowship and the family. We talk about Army family loosely, but I'm not going to say it doesn't exist in the civilian sector, but it's not consistent with what we have.
It's not the same.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Right.
So let me ask you, has any of your soldiers ever needed assistance from AER, Army Emergency Relief?
Army Emergency Relief. Yes. And, you don't realize how critical it is until you actually get in some of those positions. So, and Army Emergency Relief is there when it's really needed for travel and other things, as our guest is going to talk about today. How about you? As a first sergeant or higher, have you ever had soldiers?
Yeah. Not in abundance,
right?
But I did, and it's a great tool.
It is a great tool
as a company level leader. I mean, because that's really where the rubber meets the road.
Yep.
So the reason why we're talking about all this today is because we have an honored guest today. Yeah, he retired from active duty last year as the 16th Sergeant Major of the Army, and he is now the CEO of Army Emergency Relief. Let's welcome to the show SMA retired Tony Grinston.
Hey, thanks, Dan. And, for the record, I think 16 beats 15. So at least I've got one up.
No, that means you're younger, Dan. 15 is more because he was there before you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry. Good try. I got to stick up for 15.
Les does the 66 all the time because there were some, Inspector General was like one of the first positions ever made in the Army. I hear about it all the time, Tony. Hear about it all the time.
So we call you 16th SMA? What do we call you? I know we can call you Tony, but what do we call you?
I kind of like Tony. Let's go with that, because that's who I used to be. And
nice.
I like to say Tony is really good, and I want to be a better version of myself than I used to be.
Nice.
And my mom called me Tony, so I kind of like that. So
okay,
let's go with that.
But today we're here to talk about an incredible organization, Army Emergency Relief, and all the things they do. But before we do, in our true fashion, we're going to learn a little bit about our guest today. Now, you've been a guest of Army Matters before, right, Tony? You have.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So we're going to start with something fun, Tony. So you travel a lot with AER, and you go to all of our bases and talk to our soldiers about their needs. Last month, you visited Europe, and in a meeting with the Army spouses in Vicenza, Italy, everyone had to introduce themselves by talking about their hidden talent. So we want to know what your hidden talent is.
Oh, it's really hidden. So I've got many because, again, it's hidden. So this week, I would say my hidden talent was I had 2 scholarships to college for drums.
You got a college scholarship for drums.
I was a talented enough drummer to have 2 scholarships for drums. Yeah.
Like a percussionist, like for real.
Percussionist. Yes.
Wow. Did you know that, Dan?
I knew Tony paid drums. I did know that. I didn't know he had scholarships, though. I didn't know that he was at that level. That's impressive. That's impressive, Tony. So where'd you get a scholarship to? Where'd you get a scholarship
to?
The
University of North Alabama.
UNA, okay.
Yeah, UNA for jazz band.
Okay.
Jazz
band. So did you ever use that at all when you were the SMA? Did you ever play with the band, the Army band? Why not?
It's a hidden talent for a reason.
Okay. All right. Right to that. I got it.
So yeah, I just didn't. I got a little busy with the Army and then stopped playing. I don't know, 37 years ago.
It would have been cool to dress up in one of the colonial outfits and then hide inside the formation, though. That would have been awesome, Tony. Maybe we could still do that. Maybe we could still.
You could do it, but I just couldn't play.
So speaking of musicians, can you tell us why Irving Berlin and his 1942 musical, This Is the Army, is a major reason why we're even talking about AER today?
Yeah, back then there was a lot of supporters for the Army Emergency Relief. Actually, when they just created it, people were coming out and said, hey, what can we do to help our soldiers? And that really funded the seed corn of what is actually AER today. So that's how it started. We got the little musical there that came in, and the show. If you haven't seen it, it's on tape. It's pretty old, but it's still, that's kind of how we came about. Is a bunch of people came in and really donated a lot of money to AER.
So Tony, you've had a stellar career. Can you tell us what the most satisfying moment was as the Sergeant Major of the Army?
The day that Dan left the building.
Okay.
Woo. Other than that, no, seriously, I just had so many great moments. It's really hard to find one. It could be securing billions of dollars for barracks. I did change the PT test. It took 40 years to do it. So the first time in 40 years, we actually changed the Army Combat Fitness Test. We changed body composition, and everybody. It's like one of those things they don't talk about, but they really love was the 540 on the ACFT, and you get a body composition waiver. People went crazy over that. So those are just a couple of things. But ultimately, I just love what I did, and there's a whole bunch of things that were awesome.
So tied to that, what was your single biggest challenging moment?
The single biggest challenge was just communicating the needs of the Army to everybody. When you have a flatline budget over year after year, and it really ties to what I do now, is that just trying to let everybody know that we just don't have enough money to operate the Army. And everybody goes, oh, you got plenty. Actually, that's not true. And there's got to be concessions made. And a lot of people don't understand that the Army just couldn't fix everything. And you want perfect childcare, you want perfect barracks, you want perfect motor pools, you want perfect family housing, and that there were some concessions that had to be made in just articulating the priorities of the Army.
Yeah. So you officially retired from the Army at the end of 2023. What is the biggest adjustment that you had to make with your new status?
Not to get up at 4 o'clock, says the guy. So I still get up at 4 o'clock. I still can't figure it out. I still get up at 4. I go for a run, and I'm still trying to weed that out. But I think the second biggest thing is just trying to understand that there is more to me, that I still have to grow. You know, when you're at the top of the Army, you feel like you almost understand what you're doing, and then you got to start all over. And it's not just what you're called, it's the business aspect of being a civilian. And that when you go to Europe, they're not going to let you on the base. So it's like all these, it's crazy. Like all these things that you had and it goes away, and how do you adapt? I still love it. I'm so happy I got a chance to transition well.
You feel at home in the gym, right?
Oh, yeah.
You still hitting the weights hard now you're officially retired?
I did. You know, just so you know, I still did a 315 on a deadlift this morning.
Nice.
So it's still deadlift Monday.
Yeah.
So, and just in case they got to call me back, I'm just going to make sure I'm ready for the ACFT.
So you enlisted in the Army with the intent of only serving a few years. What was the moment you decided you wanted to make the Army your entire career? What was that one thing, the one time?
I think everybody goes through this probably around the 10-year mark. Do you want to stay? You want to go? And I think what it, for me was the Army gave me that opportunity to do something I really wanted to do. I always wanted to be a paratrooper in 6 or 7 years. And I said, look, if you can't figure this out, I guess maybe it's time for me to go. So really, that was that one little thing that kind of was enticing me to stay. And the second was leaders. If I had a really, really bad leader, that would have been it. I mean, I'm not saying I had great leaders the whole time. It's just not true. But I think at one point I did have a bad leader, and it was bad. It was like, okay, I got to go. And I think that made the difference and why I stayed.
Wasayabek Defense possesses deep subject matter expertise and the capabilities needed to carry any effort from ideation to execution and beyond. Learn more about our full set of capabilities and how we're providing innovative life cycle solutions to our warfighters at wasayabek.com/defense.
Hey, did you get your AUSA merch yet? Check out our online selection at shop.ausa.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Army Matters. Now let's talk a little bit more about Army Emergency Relief. Tony, when did you first hear about the organization?
I don't know. It was like Private Grinston. I think when you first join the Army, you hear about Army Emergency Relief.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate, single for 7 years, living in the barracks. So if I ran out of money, I just went to the DFAC and hit the gym a little bit.
Yeah, me
So
Me too.
always
That's
had
right.
food, a place to stay. But my friends used it. And then I first used it when my wife got a scholarship, and we were in Italy, and she applied and she got one of the AER scholarship. So Army Emergency Relief has been a part of my life since I've been in the Army.
Yeah. Now, we have a lot of listeners that are not associated with the military. Tell us, what is AER? Just for the basics. What is it for? How did it come about? And why do we need it?
To those inside the Army, we're the Army's nonprofit. So there's an Army regulation that covers what we do. So believe it or not, we are a part of the Army. We have a commander and a first sergeant can approve AER. It's called the Quick Assist Program. That's been alive and well, at least for 10 years. So internally, I'd say we're the Army's nonprofit. And then externally, I say the exact same thing. But then I have to explain, like you asked, and I think it goes back to something I said a little bit earlier, is does the Army have every bit of money that they always need for everything? And the answer is actually no. And so sometimes when a soldier loses their house because of a hurricane, then they're going to need some assistance. And that's where AER comes in. So we provide financial relief for active duty soldiers and their families and retirees, surviving spouses, and National Guard and Reserve that are on orders over 30 days. So we provide financial assistance to make a more ready soldier and a more ready family for the Army.
So AER always has the Sergeant of the Army as a member of the board. And I sat on the board, and then you did, Tony. Can you tell us what made you want to take over the CEO position upon retirement?
Well, I just saw what a great purpose for Les. He was on the board too. He's pointing at himself and giving the thumbs up. Yeah. So I remind folks too, the Inspector General is on our board, the current one too, Donna Martin. What made me want to join us is what a great purpose. I felt like I could do a whole bunch of things with my life after the Army, but this is one of those things I could give back to the Army.
Yeah.
If that's all we do is help soldiers and their families and retirees and surviving spouses, National Guard and Army Reserve, what more could I ask for is that job where your sole purpose is to help people when they're struggling financially. And that's why I really love what I get to do right now.
Absolutely. And our listeners out there, I'm sure many of them intimately familiar with who we are and what we do. Can you give us an impactful example recently that AER has done to help our soldiers and families?
Yeah, it's really easy. Is we just had two major hurricanes come in. We had Helene and then we had Milton, followed like 1-2 punch. And when soldiers lose their house, they got power, they need to go buy some groceries. They need, they may be staying in a hotel and, who's paying for that hotel? So we do financial assistance right off the bat, say, hey, can we help pay for that hotel? We can help put groceries back into the refrigerator because you lost power for 3 days and all your food was ruined. So we're tracking almost $2 million in financial assistance from those two hurricanes for soldiers, retirees that are in those affected areas. So when those hurricanes went through, we just jumped in and tried to provide as much assistance as we can. And we're still not finished yet because some of those requests are still coming in.
And how immediate is that impact, Tony? How fast can your team turn that aid to those soldiers and families?
Well, we're as fast as we need to be. It normally we can get money into your account within 24 to 48 hours. Wow. We do it through Zelle. That's our number one way to do it right now. We can write checks, prefer not to do that. But if you got a phone, we can do it right there. And we're going to add some other ways to do that. Some people say, oh, you got Cash App. We're not there yet. I think we're going to add PayPal soon, but Zelle is our primary means currently.
And how do you work with the Red Cross? I learned this actually when I called you about helping a soldier. And something I didn't know, which was crazy. I sat on the board. But tell us how you work with the Red Cross across the country.
Yeah, we have a memorandum of agreement with the Red Cross. And it's not across the country. It's actually around the world. Mm-hmm. So any Red Cross message that goes out to a soldier in Poland and they say, we need to help get a plane ticket to a soldier, they'll actually start the case. And then we'll pick those cases up in the headquarters in the morning, and we'll go through and we'll see them, and then we put them in our system. And anytime you can go to a Red Cross agent anywhere around the world, they'll go in the system and then they'll start the paperwork, and then they may even disperse the funds on our behalf. So if you've got money and you're an active duty soldier, or any soldier or family got money from Red Cross, probably 100% of the time it came from AER. So yes, they gave it to you, but then they bill us for it. So one sergeant major was like, I didn't get help from AER, but I got it from Red Cross. And I was like, that was AER. So it's on the backside. We do all the work. Again, we just want to help people and make sure that they get the assistance that we need.
So talk to us about grants versus loans and what some changes you want to make it more grant focused versus a loan.
Yeah, this always comes up all the time. My favorite on social media was, you only do loans. Like, no, actually we did $12 million in grants. And I give you that specific numbers because total donations were about 11.5 million last year. So it's like we do more in grants than we do in actually donations. And then if you add in scholarships, so last year we did 9 million. So it's $21 million goes out. And I call that both grant versus our loans. We do a lot of loans. It's interest free. I actually still like having loans. People are like, oh, why do you do loans? Saves soldiers a lot of money. An interest free loan versus your credit card. And that's where I'd say I want AER to be the number one nonprofit of choice for our soldiers. Before you run up a lot of debt on your credit card or you go to a payday lender, please talk to AER officers at your location. So even if you do get a loan, it's still going to be zero interest. I do want to increase the amount of grants that we do. We're looking at making emergency travel 100% grant. So right now we do 50% loan, 50% grant for a plane ticket, and we're going to see if we can increase that and make that 100% grant. So there's a lot of changes that we want to do. That's probably one of the bigger ones.
As a Sergeant Major of the Army, you dealt a lot with mental health and readiness of our soldiers. Talk to us about how you want Army Emergency Relief to potentially try to help on that. What assistance are you thinking about?
Yeah, we still have health and wellness programs. So if for some reason that TRICARE doesn't pay, some people listening might go, oh, that's a lot of time. So you can always come to us and say, hey, TRICARE doesn't cover this bill. And you can come to us and ask for assistance. That is a category that we help with. So how can we partner with other organizations to help with mental health and mental resiliency? I still am a fundamental believer that if I have less financial concerns, if I'm financially stable, I'm going to be more resilient. And maybe we can see our suicide numbers go down if we have better financial management.
Yeah, that's good. So we got a showdown. Are y'all ready for the showdown?
I guess you got to tell me what it is, but yeah,
I'm going to tell you.
I don't care what it is. I'm ready.
Okay, so we have 2 retired SMAs. I think the first time ever. So if we had to do a competition on push-ups right now, who would win? Let's start with you first, Tony.
I would, of course.
Why would you win?
Because I'm stronger than he is.
Oh, Dan, what do you say to that?
I would say I'm lighter and faster.
Oh, okay, lighter and faster.
Okay, lighter. Okay, I got you.
Lighter and faster.
Lighter and faster.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you have less to push.
He's got less to push. That's right. That's
You got more muscle.
It's all technique.
Is that what you're saying?
It's all technique.
It's all technique.
It's all technique.
All right.
Tony, I think we could easily say we could probably beat 90% of the officers out there.
But that's not the showdown.
That's the showdown.
That's not the question.
Showdown. All right. Showdown or not, it has been great to have you on the show, Tony. Thanks for not only coming out, but also for your years of service and sacrifice and your current work with AER. It's such a great organization. It's been a treat chatting with you again, Tony. Thank you.
And same thing to both of you. Thank you both for serving as long as you did. And I don't think you all get the same credit, but from one retiree to another, I appreciate the years of dedication you both had too. So thank you.
And one note, too, for our listeners out there. I used to be the retiree council co-chair, but now SMA Tony Grinston is now the retiree council co-chair. So if you have a retirement issue, you can call Tony, too, and he can help you with that. Right, Tony?
Thanks, Dan.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
The Wasayabeck Defense Team leans into tough challenges, standing ready to develop solutions for the most complex problems faced by the modern warfighter. Discover how we rise to the occasion every time at wasayabeck.com/defense.
In every episode of our series, our hosts and guests talk about those people who have played significant roles in their careers and personal lives. In today's chapter spotlight, we'd like to highlight an event that recognized the work of people who have helped out their chapters over the years. On September 5th, the George Washington chapter hosted its quarterly luncheon. Held at the Army-Navy Country Club in Arlington, Virginia, the event featured a stirring rendition of the national anthem by the Army Band Brass Quintet and a number of speeches. Club President Karen Lowe announced that the chapter had received AUSA's Best Chapters in Category 1 award, and then followed up with tributes to past presidents Glenn Yarborough and Dick Winter. The keynote address was made by the Honorable Doug Bush, Assistant Secretary of the Army for Acquisition, Logistics, and Technology. Congrats to the event's organizers as well as to everyone who attended. If you or your chapter would like to be profiled on the show, please email us at podcast@ausa.org. Hooah!
To all our listeners, thanks for joining us. Army Matters is brought to you by the Association of the United States Army, the U.S. Army's professional association, member-supported, Army-connected. Visit us at AUSA.org for more information or to become a member. Your membership helps AUSA continue to carry out its mission, educate, inform, and connect with the total Army, our industry partners, and supporters of a strong national defense. Today's episode was hosted by Lieutenant General Retired Les Smith and SMA Retired Dan Dailey, and anchor hosted by Carrie Barrow-Heckes. Anthony Del Call is the producer and writer, and Andy Bosnack is the supervising sound editor. Ellen Toner is the content editor. Unzinga Curry is the executive producer, and the senior producers are Carrie Barrow-Heckes and LaSharon Duncan. Be sure to subscribe to Army Matters wherever you get your podcasts, and please leave a review. As you know, we love seeing stars in the Army, especially if it comes in the form of a 5-star review. AUSA's Army Matters podcast can also be heard on Reach Across America Radio on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, on the iHeartRadio app, the Odyssey app, and the TuneIn app with the search of the word Reef. AUSA's Army Matters podcast primary purpose is to entertain. The podcast does not constitute advice or services. While guests are invited to listen, listeners, please note that you're not being provided professional advice from the podcast or the guest. The views and opinions of our guests do not necessarily reflect the views of AUSA. For questions or to provide topic recommendations, email us at podcast@ausa.org. I'm LaSharon Duncan. Hope you have a great Army Day. Hooah!